Alright, so for the past 17 days, I have been playing this Fight for Your Lifelands mod, and it is interesting. I have a lot of weird points that I want to cover, and I don't exactly know how I want to organize them, because this mod was enjoyable, but definitely too difficult if you're a new player, and there's a lot of reasons why it feels like that to me. The first things I want to note about this mod is the rarity scaling is very, very odd for new players, and even returning players, and too many people, basically. So, in this game, there are a lot more rarities. There are 20. And in your first and second playthrough, you can find all of these, so your commons, uncommons, rares, very rares, e-techs, uniques, and then early game legendaries. Now, that is a lot of stuff to keep track of. But the second you hit level 50, you get access to 3 tiers of legendaries. Whenever you enter UVHM, you get access to Seraphs, you get access to Gemstones at level 50, and then after you hit level 54, you'll start to see Pearls drop, and then level 62, more Pearls, and then OP3, more, and then OP6, more, and then OP8, more. So, in normal mode, and in TVHM, you're not really seeing anything too unique too often, and if you are, it'll be nice for a couple levels, but the mod just really, really hurts at that point. You are using a Ravager, you are using javelins to chuck at people, you are crying, you are trying to delete the enemy, stuff like that. And then the second you turn level 50, or you kill a mob that's level 50 and they drop a legendary, the game just becomes weirdly easier, which I don't entirely understand, but it's a weird threshold. So after you hit level 50 and you get a legendary or two, the game instantly just becomes substantially easier, and then you can carry yourself pretty much until you get to your next tier. So you start to see pearls, game gets easier, uncommons, they get easier, up until Digipeak, and then Digipeak tries to pull the reins back a little bit. The game will get a little bit harder again, but once again, if you just get the nice shiny objects, you can start to win the game more. So it's a little bit weird. Now, if you like variety, and you like a variety of builds, unfortunately, and this is partially due to the fact that level 80 exists, you are pretty well going to want to run whatever the meta build is, because this is a mod that is made to hurt. You have a couple options, like for example on Maya here, you can run a heavy phase lock damage build, you could run like an SMG, or you could run pistols, or you could run a general build that just works with whatever overpowered equipment you have recently found. But for the most part, you are going to just want to run the most OP things to be able to deal with the enemies that are also OP. So that's just kind of how it feels gameplay-wise. You're just looking for the next good thing, trying to min-max a little bit too hard sometimes. It feels okay, but it can be a little bit weird for people who don't like that type of experience. Now, for equipment, there is a lot of equipment. There are many items here. As you can see, we have a bunch of shiny objects. They're all very cool. They're all very, very nice. As you can see, we've got stuff. We've got some shotguns here. We've got some SMGs. We've got snipers. We've got rocket launchers. We've got a couple things to pick from. But if you look at their drop sources, you'll see a lot of overlap. Like a lot of the very nice shields drop from raids or peak boss, which is binary. A lot of rocket launchers and pistols drop primarily from Geary, and they might have another source or two. Sniper rifles, same idea. Raid boss, binary. And then Sinkhole, we've got SMGs, which come from same idea, but also Wound Spike. Shotgun, same idea, but Tinkles. So basically, a lot of these farms are general. There are no target farms for the most part. You are going to be farming one enemy, and just trying to amass random drops from them. It is a little bit rough, but it has felt okay. So if you are okay with general farming, I will say it's not bad, but if you don't like the general farm, you might not like that. Now, on top of all of this, the game being harder and stuff like that, there are a couple mechanical changes to the game that have been made. All of the Vault Hunters move faster, Sawblade Technicals now move at the same speed as Catapult Technicals, which is just a nice quality of life. Golden Chest now cost 5 Iridium, so you can go ahead and try to roll Golden Chest for some loot if you're feeling a little bit behind. Corrosive damage now also causes enemies to stagger a lot, which is actually really, really nice. It can make enemies a non-problem for a while if you need them to be. Shock damage decreases enemy health regen, which normally you wouldn't really think about needing that, but enemies can spawn with Legendary or Seraph or Pearl Shields where they have that health regen, so sometimes it is very necessary to keep a shock item on you to apply the shock debuff to an enemy so that they can't out-heal your damage, because there was a point where I didn't know that, and I genuinely dumped all of my Ravager ammo and all of my Javelin into a single BA loader, and it was not good, and I didn't know about the shock thing, so just a thing to keep in mind. Now, for doing the big 4 DLCs that people are used to doing, those do have a minimum level of 50 in every playthrough, so if you wanted to do a DLC in normal mode or like TVHM, you would pretty much be restricted to Headhunters, maybe Lilith DLC, stuff like that. But Pirate DLC, Torg DLC, Hammerlock, and Tina DLC, you are probably not want to go in those. You could maybe get a little bit of XP out of Tina DLC, but that's really about it. And for some people, that really sucks. I know a lot of people who route their game going into Pirate DLC to grab a Pimpernel or stuff like that early, but you cannot do that because it is just simply too difficult. Everything is too high level, and that will suck. Now, the actual game scaling itself, so how fast damage ramps up on both enemies and yourself, is significantly reduced, which has felt really nice. As you can see, I have an OP10 character here with an OP10 shield, and I have 56,000 health and 67,000 shield capacity, which is probably around like level 60-ish probably. So that does feel pretty nice. You're not going to see as massive of damage numbers. They get crunched down pretty easy, so everything's visually easier to tell what's going on, stuff like that. And it does mean that some of the extreme end ramping up is not going to happen in this mod. So a lot of the unbalanced dots from enemies or like damage from enemies, not really going to happen as much unless you choose to play on a high difficulty. So for that whole difficulty thing, if you open this mod in BLCMM, which you will need to whenever you first launch it because it will have a couple options that you can flick through and change, you can see that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 difficulties to choose from, easy being the easiest of course, and True Nightmare being the hardest of course. Now, for a playthrough, for an average person, for a normal person, I would probably recommend either playing on hard or Nightmare, because True Nightmare doesn't add any benefit for the player. It genuinely just exists to make the game harder, and that is it. So if you want an experience where you are fed the most loot, where the enemies are difficult but not insane, I would play on, well, hard or Nightmare. So yeah, that pretty much covers that. And in terms of actually playing the mod, I will say it feels a little bit harder than vanilla for sure. Normal mode and TVHM, since you don't have any unique loot, does feel really, really bad. But whenever you enter UVHM and beyond, you do start to pretty much have access to the world. You can actually go to DLCs and do those as you want to. You can go get loot as you want to. You can unlock your farms. Everything feels pretty good. It is weirdly easy, followed by weirdly hard. And there are some sticking points where you do have to figure out how to actually play the game well again, because mechanically, some enemies are a little bit different. They're a little more aggressive in this mod. They have a lot more health in this mod, so you actually have to give them the respect they need. Exploders explode instantly, so if you get close to those, you will get punished for it harder than vanilla. BA loaders with their fire volleys will deal incredibly more damage, so you have to pay respect to those as well. Basically, the game will try to punish you for stuff that vanilla tries to punish you for, but doesn't necessarily do. So basically, overall, the mod has felt fun, but I will say if you are a newer player or someone who is not interested in general farming or overall difficulty, this probably will not be the mod for you. There are a bunch of custom items that feel really fun, they're really nice, and they're really fun to mess with, but it really just depends if you're willing to deal with that extra difficulty. Of course, you could go into BLCM once again and go ahead and adjust your difficulty as you like, but overall it will just be a harder experience. There's a lot more punishment happening, and the game just overall is harder. So yeah, pretty much that. Fight for Your Lifelands, really hard, kind of fun. If you're a masochist, probably is why I enjoyed it, I don't know. And then there are some weird sticking points, so you will have to look out for those, and then try to avoid trying to do DLCs until you pretty much get into UVHM. And then you're going to be doing a lot of general farming to get your loot, to get your XP, and stuff like that. So yeah, that does it. I think Fight for Your Lifelands is pretty okay. Go ahead and try it yourself. See you later. Bye.